I think that'll do us for the Europe stuff. So let's get into the Prem then. Let's do it. Let's get into the Prem. I think we'll start with doing our predictions that we all did. First of all, I had a little read back and look at it today. So in terms of who we all thought was going to win it, Ali's not here, so I'll read out obviously his Prem 11, which we'll do of the season as well at some point. But I said City were going to win it. I thought they were going to have 5 in a row. They obviously drop off. Greg and Ali, you guys both said you thought Arsenal would win it this time and pip them. And Matthew, you were correct, whether you were just being funny or bold, but you did predict Liverpool to win the league title. So they won the league, and that was number 20. So that was that. Just quickly to rack off the kind of finishing in the top 4, as I thought Arsenal would come second, behind City, Liverpool third, and Newcastle fourth. Beans, you had Arsenal second, United third, Liverpool fourth. Ali had City second, Liverpool third, and United fourth. Matthew, you had Arsenal second, City third, and Newcastle fourth. So you got 1, 2, and 3 correct, and only a last day off of a full house, because Newcastle could have came fourth on the last day.
Yeah, there you go.
I win a prize,
or you don't. You get fuck all. You get absolutely fuck all.
Match attack book.
I think 'cause I started with Matthew for the Champions League stuff being so. Just overall, what was your thoughts on the Prem season? Obviously, there was a lot of talks of this being a poor Premier League season from a lot of the media, but what was your thoughts overall on it?
I mean, it's easy to say as a Liverpool fan that I enjoyed it, but I think I don't know. I always think with that stuff about it being a poor season, I bet you if you were to go back over the last 30 years, there's been other seasons like the exact same. It's just that City have set that kind of marker of getting 95 plus points.
Yeah.
So this year was probably just a bit like back to normality, with obviously City dropping off. Liverpool. The one thing that I would say, which is why people say it's maybe a poor season, is like once Liverpool got out in front by like Christmas, Arsenal didn't really put on much of a fight. So there wasn't really a title race, and even I know top 4, well, they ended up being top 5 for Champions League spots. That was the only thing to really play for with like 4 weeks to go, because the 3 that came up were so poor.
Yeah.
So I think that always like kind of hurt. And then like let's be honest, there was like your Tottenhams and Uniteds had just given up on the league with like literally 6 games to go, because they knew they couldn't go down. So maybe the overall season felt a little bit anticlimactic because of that. But as I say, as a Liverpool fan, I thoroughly enjoyed the year.
No one will speak about that in like
exactly
5 years and be like,
you'll just be like, who won the league?
Hardly anyone really, even with the Leicester one, everyone's like,
well, that's a good point as well. Yeah.
Really. That was good. I think obviously the likes of City dropping off, and then United and Tottenham kind of having weird seasons. But if you look at like the likes like Brighton and Villa, and you probably put Newcastle and that in the mix there.
Bournemouth,
exactly. Then you look at those clubs, and like I actually think that the likes of United and Tottenham might need to be really careful, because I think the likes of like you put Bournemouth,
Brighton,
Villa, Brighton probably in the mix there. Brighton maybe not so much, but definitely more so like your Villa and Bournemouth and that. Like, I think that the model now that they've got is just so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Than the model that like you look at what what United and Tottenham have got, and they have to be really careful because they get that spot on and they can keep their managers. Like, I honestly don't see them like finishing. It'll depend on obviously injuries and that throughout the season, and who. And obviously Champions League and Europe, if you're playing in Europe and that, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But I just think that they need to be really careful, because the model that these clubs are starting to create now, specifically on the science side of things with data and stuff like that, like it's a bit of a game changer, and it can almost put you past the head of the dinosaurs and that. Yeah, you can.
And the longer they continue to finish 7th, 8th, get some European football, get a bit more money, and get a bit of an appeal to other people, the better it is. And by the way, on that, why I don't think it was a bad season at all, and you can talk about it, the 3 at the bottom just go straight back down. Obviously, we're really poor. There was a bit of an interesting race for like 4th and 5th, which I know is doesn't really mean anything other than Champions League. But I think after that, the middle of the Prem, as you've just said, for me, that I can remember off the top of my head and the whole time of watching football, is the strongest it's ever been. It has the most lure because of the money they're making.
And even we played Fulham away, like 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe even a little bit longer. And you're like, actually, like, it's not easy to go and get points at like Craven Cottage, for example, now. And I think like I don't know, but maybe way back 20 years ago, you would all these teams that United were obviously the best. They would just go and churn out wins at all these away grounds.
Exactly.
Where I don't think it's like that anymore. I think going to like
Mm.
Brighton away, Bournemouth away, Fulham away, Nottingham Forest in particular this year away, it's like really, really tough places to go and pick up points.
These clubs are starting to bring in money now, and the likes like United and
Yeah.
Tottenham and that. Like, there's not like I honestly think it's a bit of a slippery slope for them. Like,
Yeah.
They'll
Well,
always have that lure though.
Yeah, I mean they're chucking the cash on. United have already got Cunha for 62. They're talking about Embuemo. They're talking about Gyökeres, but it seems quite. Yeah,
they
I know
need
what you
to-
mean.
Let's not go into it. I don't know
Yeah.
why they need. Actually, no.
Yeah,
I'm
we're-
intrigued by
we're
that
not-
guy.
It
Chris, to be
fucking
fair,
Yeah,
but-
so
doesn't
am I.
matter. Like, but
I'm with you though. I think the middle of the league was extremely strong this season. Again, it's always like those teams though. Like Bournemouth have lost Kerkez. Like they've lost Huijsen to Madrid. I mean, you're always you need to continue to be a step
Yeah.
ahead in the data to keep yourself up there. Because
Brighton,
let's
gonna
be
lose
honest.
Pedro maybe.
Yeah, let's be honest. I mean, as much as we say about Man United and Spurs, but if one of them comes in for a Bournemouth or United player,
They're
they
gone.
can pay more money. They're probably going to go.
Yeah.
So,
the difference is like you need to recruit well though. Like,
oh, I agree.
that's probably the biggest things that the clubs we just mentioned have done. They've recruited so well.
Yeah.
And obviously with that probably comes the data and science side of things and stuff like that, and obviously a manager buying the players for the manager and actual what he wants. But yeah, I think the recruitment side of things is huge. Like, and there's just new models in play now, isn't there, that you can look at it and do it differently. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But what did Villa end up getting? Was it
Villa
Euro-
came sixth. They came
Europe-
sixth, 66 points, so they'll be in the Europa League. Yeah, which
With,
will
like,
hurt them.
With such a poor refereeing decision on the last day,
Yeah,
that was
very
a
poor.
shocker.
It'll hurt them because, as we've talked about a load of times now, this whole PSR thing is actually they're making people actually obviously have to go into that. So like Villa have chucked money. I quite like to get into it too because I think Newcastle are in this same boat as well. Where Villa basically got the Champions League and then they got Asensio, they've gone for Rashford, they signed a few other players like that, but then they've not then made it again because I think, as we've said, the league is so difficult. You're trying to learn how to play both, but you need to get high level players in. But all of a sudden you're in a position now.
They loaned those players, or
I know they
Yeah.
did. I know they did loan them, but I'm just saying, for example,
So
if you
that's-
want to get players into your squad, it's very difficult to juggle the Europe and the league. If, as we're saying, the league's getting a bit harder, and I think now as soon as you start to drop out of those places, you've got a massive gaping hole in your money.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a lot more competitive now in terms of like even look at the so-called Big Six.
Yep.
Like Villa, Newcastle, like those clubs being involved in the race for the top four as it is just going to make it. There's always going to be arguably if Villa and Newcastle get in, there could be as many as four of the Big Six not having Champions League football.
Yep.
So that's why even like Liverpool, City, Arsenal this year have to be so on their toes for next year because if you drop, as you say, if you have the money coming in and all of a sudden you don't, that could look at Liverpool spending quite a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think that's all. I think the only thing I'd say about that though is that's always been the case no matter what.
Yeah, probably.
The only
actually.
difference you're talking about is this new thing in place, but I think this new thing that's in place, I think it more so depends on your club revenue and what you're bringing in compared to what you spend.
Wages count towards it too,
The wages count towards that.
and what you bring in and what you pay. So like buying players does have an impact on it. So you
Right.
can't or else Newcastle and City just go, well, here's 100 million on fucking 7 players.
Yeah.
That's 700 million. Like it does play a
No,
part.
but it
into
depends. What I was saying was it depends on your, like your revenue and stuff like that.
Yeah,
though, does it
that
not?
plays a part in it. But you can't just go but you still can't just go spend 700 million pounds in a window.
Right.
Even if you like it, like what you spend and what you bring in plays a part in your
Well, teams
finances.
are probably
towards
going to loan players then.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
totally could become a loan, and I just think that I think it's going to be really difficult for new Chelsea are like stockpiling like mad, so they have a squad where they obviously balanced a lot with the Europa League last season. I think they'll do similar in the Champions League. I think they've like got a squad now where they can kind of balance and rotate and keep guys fresh, but like. I think Newcastle will struggle to get into the top 4 again next season with the balance of both of the midweek because they can't go. They're not used to it. So if you're kind of going 1 year in, 1 year out, 1 year in, 1 year out, you're not. How are you finding the balance between your players getting used to it, the manager, the club, everything?
It's a lot of the same squad though to what they had last time non-Champions League, I'd probably say.
Yeah, and they made an extra step up in similar squad and they won the League Cup, but they can't go they're you know they obviously almost had to sell like Anthony Gordon and stuff last summer. Like they can't now go and buy 3 high level players for £200 million, for example, overall, because they're not allowed to do that now. So how do you bolster your squad and be able to balance Champions League, which we've just said is difficult now, and the Premier League, because Bournemouth are playing 1 game a week now. So you're Newcastle and you're playing Bournemouth and you've just had fucking PSG away in the middle of the week, and then you've got to go to fucking Real Madrid the weekend after, and then you're playing Brentford. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean?
That's that's what you want to do. That's the beauty of it. No?
I know it is. I'm just saying I think it's harder for like
it's always getting in. If you go in, if you're kind of at that level and you do get into the Champions League, it's always going to be harder, no matter what.
Of course it is, and that's why I think Liverpool, Arsenal, and City.
But if you do it right, though.
Yeah, if you do it right, Liverpool, Arsenal, and City, as you just said, Greg, I think you're looking at it as they've been a 3 for the last like 3-4 years, and I think all of them will be like, we are not dropping into that battle for 4th and 5th in that, because as soon as you miss out, you're in a bit of trouble financially.
I wouldn't say our squad's very.
Yeah, we actually did okay last year, weren't we? We were in Europa last year.
Yeah.
Was it last year?
But
yeah,
Champions League, we seem to juggle. This is the biggest thing as well, is that I think that injuries play a huge part in it.
We were probably lucky this year.
Of course, yeah.
Well, we weren't probably lucky. We were very lucky. I mean, Slot just played like the same 14, 15 guys.
Yeah. And we obviously got, well, not lucky on the injuries, because obviously there's a lot that goes into it. And we brought in a guy that specialises in that, and it seemed to obviously go well.
Yeah.
He's probably got a fuck off bonus as well, considering how good it was. But yeah, that's obviously going to play a massive part in it as well.